In the shocking conclusion to A Dance with Dragons, Lord Varys makes a triumphant return to the series, having gone missing for nearly 2 whole books. Through careful cunning, he lures Ser Kevan Lannister to Grand Maester Pycelle's chambers, where he mortally wounds the knight with a crossbow bolt to the chest. Helpless, Ser Kevan can do nothing but listen as Lord Varys tells him all about his grand plans for what sounds like Targaryen restoration. There are many questions to be had here. Where was Lord Varys? Who is Lord Varys? Why is Lord Varys? There are things about the spider that may chill your blood. But before we get to the theories, please do me the honor of liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications. And now, on with the video. Plump, perfumed, and powdered, Lord Varys is one of the series' most enigmatic characters. Unloved by the small folk and oft despised by the court, Lord Varys manages to buy his life one day at a time by being an invaluable source of information. The storms crash overhead, the big fish eats the little fish, yet Lord Varys keeps on paddling. The vast web of intrigue the spider has webbed over Westeros is intricate indeed. He has agents in almost all corners of the realm. There has not been a more infamous master of whisperers since Brynden Bloodraven Rivers, who watched over Westeros with 1,000 eyes and won. The Iron Throne may belong to the king, but the Red Keep belongs to the spider. Maegor the Cruel once said, only the blood of the dragon would ever know the secrets of the Red Keep, yet Lord Varys has somehow uncovered many of its deeper mysteries. We know very little of the Spymaster's past. It's said around court that Varys grew up in Lys as a slave. At one point in his youth, he became part of a mummer's troop. He traveled with his troop for some time until there came a day when a mysterious man offered to buy Varys from his master. The master mummer accepted the rather generous offer, unaware and uncaring of what it meant for his pupil. Varys was taken to a private room where he was paralyzed and then castrated. His private parts were burned in a brazier as part of a magical ritual. Varys claims to have heard the mysterious man speak to a voice within the flames. The memory of the disembodied voice haunts him even now. Varys has carried a deep hatred of magic ever since. After that dark and disturbing night, Varys was dismissed by the mysterious man to go die in what way seemed best to him. Rather than die, Varys resolved that he would live. He wandered through free cities, gaining a notorious reputation as a thief and a eunuch. Eventually, he crossed paths with a young swordsman named Illyrio Mopatis. The two conspired to create a vast criminal empire. But instead of stealing silver, they stole secrets. Using children that Varys called mice, the precursors to his little birds, Varys and Illyrio purloined the letters and ledgers of the rich and powerful in the city. What secrets Varys and his mice acquired, Illyrio offered to recover for those willing to pay the right price. They quickly rose to prominence within Pentos. Their activities would soon gain the attention of a mad king from across the narrow sea. Varys was summoned to King's Landing to serve on that king's council. His infamy only grew from there. It's nigh on impossible to verify all the details of this story, most of which we learn through second and third-hand sources. It is known that Varys often tells half-truths and whole lies, but the claim about Varys being a mummer appears to be true. He possesses the uncanny ability to transform himself into a variety of disguises. His costumes can be so convincing that people that are familiar with him would fail to recognize him even up close. In addition to his flowing robes and perfumes, Varys is known for his shaved head. This style of cut is called a mummer's cut in Bravos, as we find out in Book 5 when Arya has her head shaved by the Faceless Men. Quote, "The waif had shaved her head from when they took her eyes. A mummer's cut, she called it, since many mummers did the same so their wigs might fit them better." The word mummer is an archaic way of saying actor. Varys certainly has a flair for the dramatic, from his eccentric appearance to his choice of flowery scents to his sly, obsequious manner. So much of what he does is exaggerated for the purpose of theater, as if he were constantly putting on a show. Take for example the night Tyrion had Janos Slynt exiled. Varys and Tyrion share a cup of wine following the event. Quote, "Varys filled the cup. Ah, sweet as summer." He took another sip. "I hear the grapes singing on my tongue. It was my sister." That was what the oh-so-loyal Lord Janos refused to say. Cersei sent the gold cloaks to that brothel. Varys tittered nervously. "You left that part out," Tyrion said accusingly. "Your own sweet sister," Varys said, so grief-stricken he looked close to tears. "It is a hard thing to tell a man, my lord. I was fearful how you might take it. Can you forgive me?" Here we have a shining example of how Lord Varys leads out important details in his reports as best fits his needs. And with a look of grief and with eyes brimming with tears, we see how quickly he can put on a melodramatic performance. One of his greatest performances might be on the night he killed Ser Kevan, a performance the fandom has been raving about ever since it was published over a decade ago. After incapacitating the Elder Knight, Varys tells him that Aegon, son of Rhaegar, is still alive. Ser Kevan insists Aegon is dead. He saw the infant's corpse himself, wrapped up in a crimson cloak. Varys resolutely disagrees. Quote, "No." The eunuch's voice seemed deeper. "He is here." Aegon has been shaped for rule since before he could walk. He has been trained in arms as befit a knight to be, but that was not the end of his education. Tommen has been taught that kingship is his right. Aegon knows that kingship is his duty, that a king must put his people first and live and rule for them. Other than a small cameo in A Feast for Crows, the epilogue in A Dance with Dragons is the first time readers have seen Lord Varys in over a decade. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one for those that missed the mincing eunuch. But could Lord Varys possibly be telling the truth, or is he lying? Is this conversation key to determining whether or not young Griff is who he claims to be? Those are not the questions you should be asking yourself. The most important question is, why would Lord Varys talk to Ser Kevan at all? There was no reason for Lord Varys to reveal himself, no reason for a confession of truth or lies. Since Varys shot Kevan from afar, he could have slid into the shadows without being noticed, on soft, slippered feet. Yet he decided to confront Ser Kevan and force a conversation. It is not a kindness, nor it is a courtesy for Varys to explain his endgame to a dying man. A man whose murder he will be responsible for. What's worse is that Varys goes into excruciating detail about how he will destabilize Lannister rule to pave the way for his Targaryen pretender. Which means Ser Kevan goes to his grave knowing his family is in terrible danger. Not a comforting last thought. If Varys truly felt sorry for his actions, a quicker method would have been preferable, and no long self-indulgent speech. But the former mummer wanted this moment to last. He couldn't resist putting on a show, especially for such a captive audience. You see, Varys doesn't want to comfort Ser Kevan in his final moments. He wants to torture him, and he wants to savor every sweet second until the end. Varys may present himself as someone who is soft and sensitive, a threat to no one, all he wants is what's best for the realm. But in reality, he is cold, calculating, and callous, wholly indifferent to the suffering of others. That is because Lord Varys is one of this story's major villains. He has escaped detection by hiding his true nature under brocade robes, heavy perfumes, and a slimy smile. To quote from a Terry Pratchett novel, if a man has you entirely at his mercy, then hope like hell that man is an evil man. Because the evil like power over people, and they want to see you in fear. They want you to know you're going to die, so they'll talk, they'll gloat, they'll watch you squirm. They'll put off the moment of murder like another man will put off a good cigar. So hope like hell your captor is an evil man. A good man will kill you with hardly a word. Lord Varys was monologuing the night he killed Ser Kevan. He was committing the trope of evil gloating. Evil gloating is when the villain reveals their grand plan to a helpless victim, usually the hero, the role Ser Kevan was forced to play the night he was murdered. Lord Varys says that Ser Kevan was stabilizing Tommen's rule, which would have brought the realm to peace. This would have made Ser Kevan a hero, at least in the eyes of House Lannister. Ser Kevan's death was basically scripted, right down to the props being used. Quote, Ser Kevan tried to rise, but the strength had left him. He could not feel his legs. I thought the crossbow fitting. You shared so much with Lord Tywin. Why not that? Bringing up Ser Kevan's recently deceased brother is not comforting. Again, it is just cruel. And cruelty is the point. There was no need for the crossbow. Cersei would have blamed Ser Kevan's murder on Tyrion regardless of how he died. The crossbow was for Varys' own amusement. Dramatic irony that someone who likes theater could appreciate, nothing more. The whole event was a mummer's farce, one that's part of a grand show Varys has been putting on for decades. Varys may be a player in the Game of Thrones, but he does not view the game like a round of Scythe-ass as other people do. Varys views it all as a stage show. Quote, when I was a young boy before I was cut, I traveled with a troop of mummers through the free cities. They taught me that each man has a role to play, in life as well as mummery. So it is at court. The king's justice must be fearsome, the master of coin must be frugal, the lord commander of the king's guard must be valiant, and the master of whisperers must be sly and obsequious and without scruple. A courageous informer would be as useless as a cowardly knight. Throughout his time in King's Landing, Varys has been performing a variety of carefully crafted roles. In some scenes he is Lord Varys, the Master of Whisperers, the Spider. Other times he is Rugen, the rough-voiced jailer that reeks of sour wine. In some cases he's a begging brother. In others, a cloaked hooded figure with voluminous sleeves. He's even portrayed the role of a matronly woman. Varys is who the scene requires. Varys determined Pycelle and Ser Kevan no longer fit the narrative he had designed, so their characters had to be cut. Ser Kevan was a competent and capable leader. If the Lannisters had to fall, killing him makes sense. But why Pycelle? Pycelle may have been a Lannister lackey, but even he was incapable of course-correcting the Mad Queen's rule. Leaving him on Cersei's council would perhaps quicken her inevitable demise. Could it be then that Pycelle had compromising information on Lord Varys? Quote, "Do all maesters lie so poorly? I told no one that I had offered Myrcella to the Dornish. That truth was only in the letter I entrusted to you." Pycelle clutched for a corner of the blanket. "Birds are lost, messages are stolen or sold. It was Varys. There are things that I might tell you of the eunuch that would chill your blood." Was Pycelle merely prejudiced of Varys for being a foreign-born eunuch, or did he know some dark secret? It has also been theorized that as Grand Maester, Pycelle would have been present for the birth of Prince Aegon. He may be aware of a birthmark or other identifying feature that would help determine whether or not young Griff is who he claims to be. It is more likely that Varys killed Pycelle to open a post on the small council for a new Grand Maester, one that is not overly loyal to a specific house. Varys is casting his new show accordingly, and he needs just the right person for each and every role. As for Aegon's anatomy, if Pycelle were to suggest that he knew of an identifying birthmark, his claims would be dismissed as nothing more than Lannister lies. And it would be odd to mention now, 6 books into the story, that Aegon has a birthmark when no such mark was ever mentioned before. Varys himself claims he is not allied to one particular house over the other. In the Black Cells, Eddard Stark once asked the eunuch where he placed his allegiance, and Varys said this, quote, "Tell me, Lord Varys, who do you truly serve?" Varys smiled thinly. "Why, the realm, my good lord. How could you ever doubt that? I swear it by my lost manhood. I serve the realm, and the realm needs peace." This is not a half-truth, but a whole lie. Varys' machinations don't steer the realm towards peace. Varys is working towards war. Young Griff's ascension to the Iron Throne would not be a peaceful one. No one coming to remove the reigning monarch from the Iron Throne can expect to do so in a peaceful manner. Such a contest means war. Already lives are being lost as the Golden Company makes their incursion along the Westerosi coast. This invasion will lead to war, and as Varys himself has said, it will be the innocents that suffer the most as their High Lords play their Game of Thrones. Varys does not care about the innocents no more than he does for his little birds. During their secret conversation beneath the Red Keep in Book 1, Varys requested that Illyrio send him more little birds. He begged Illyrio to treat them gentle, yet he has their tongues torn out all the same. It seems that since he was cut when he was younger, he has no problem taking orphaned children and having them mutilated as well. In some cases, when people were abused in their youth, they grow up and commit the same sort of crimes that were perpetrated upon them. So Varys' claim of wanting peace is just one of the multitude of lies he has told throughout his lifetime, something Ned noticed before his fall from grace. Quote, "Varys was worse. For all his protestations of loyalty, the eunuch knew too much and did too little. The only reason Varys wants peace is because he doesn't want war to happen so soon. Westeros must be destabilized at just the right time to ensure a swift victory of young Griff's invasion." So all his talk of trying to save King Robert from Lannister intrigue and of trying to save Ned was all an act. During their dungeon conversation, Varys seems to quite enjoy describing how Ned's poor choices led to his current imprisonment and how Ned's children, in particular Sansa, are in grave danger. Down here in the dark, Varys is no longer shy and squeamish of graphic details. There are no exclamations of, "Oh, how dreadful," or false tears when horrors are spoken of. No, in that black pit, Varys has no problem describing how Sansa could be decapitated and her head brought to Ned if he doesn't cooperate with the Queen. Understanding all of this is important in deciphering part of what happened the night Varys killed Ser Kevan. People have wondered who Varys might have truly been talking to on that night. Was he actually remorseful for having to kill the aged knight and felt it necessary to explain his actions? Was he perhaps speaking out loud so that his little birds may overhear? Or did he think that someone else may have been within earshot? The truth is, Varys was speaking for his own benefit. He was glorying in his own triumph. For decades, Varys has been building towards his endgame. He has had to keep his actions a secret this whole time, along with keeping up this false persona. The only person he has let in on the plan is Illyrio, who lives far away in Pentos. He has no one to confide in. But now, with victory seemingly so close at hand, Varys has allowed himself this one moment to indulge, one moment to take the mask off. And why not? It's not as if his little birds will ever betray him, and the only person within earshot is about to die. Remember the conversation between Littlefinger and Sansa in A Feast for Crows, where he warned her that they must keep up their deceptions even behind closed doors. Quote, Littlefinger put a finger to her lips. I know what I know, and so do you. Some things are best left unsaid, sweetling, even when we are alone, especially when we are alone. Elsewise, a day will come when a servant walks into a room unannounced, or a guardsman at the door chances to hear something he should not. Do you want more blood on your pretty little hands, my darling? Littlefinger is right in that it is best to keep your guard up at all times, especially when you dare to roll the dice in the Game of Thrones. But Littlefinger is guilty of doing the same thing Varys is doing with Ser Kevan, except his audience is Sansa Stark. Through all the years of scheming and plotting, Littlefinger, like Varys, has had no one to confide in until now. Sansa makes for a captive audience, quite literally in this case. Littlefinger captured her from the Lannisters and now holds her in the Eyrie. She is also easily impressed and intrigued by the secrets Littlefinger shares with her. Littlefinger loves that he has someone who looks so much like Catelyn but is much more tractable. Littlefinger is a simpleton for Sansa, and this may lead to his undoing. Because unlike the case with Ser Kevan and Varys, Sansa, or Elaine rather, is still alive, and that little bird holds many secrets, and one day she might start singing. Varys and Littlefinger are the kind of criminals that don't want to get caught, but who can't pass up a golden opportunity to explain just how clever they are. However, there still remains the question, was Varys telling the truth or not? Is the boy called Aegon truly Aegon? Young Griff's identity and the possibility that Aegon, son of Prince Rhaegar, survived and Varys' hand in that is something we will explore in the Life and Lies Part 2. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, it's time to call the banners. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think of Lord Varys' monologue and the epilogue. Also, don't forget to ring that bell to turn on notifications, and again, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.